A second round of negotiations between Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin took place at the Kremlin. Following talks that Putin characterized as successful and constructive, the leaders of China and Russia signed a number of documents on a strategic cooperation, demonstrating that relations between the two nations were at their highest point in the entire history of our two countries. The visit of the Chinese president to Moscow has been seen as a huge victory for Putin, the two main strategic partner. According to Russian official media, Xi declared that China supported peace and dialogue and had an impartial position regarding the conflict in Ukraine. Talks with his Russian counterpart were open and friendly, according to Xi. When the West is prepared for it, Putin said, Beijing's suggestion to stop the Ukraine war might serve as the foundation for a peaceful resolution. In a symbolic gesture of solidarity after the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for the president of Russia on charges of forcibly deporting Ukrainian children, Xi has extended an invitation to Putin to visit China this year. During a meeting with Mikhail Mishustin, the Russian Prime Minister, on Tuesday morning as part of his state visit to Moscow, the Chinese president extended the offer. Putin may visit China this year, according to Yuri Ushakov, a Kremlin advisor on international affairs. Putin has denounced the UK's decision to transfer depleted uranium munitions to be used in Ukraine. The Russian leader cautioned at his news conference with President Xi that Russia will be compelled to respond if the UK provides weaponry containing depleted uranium to Ukraine. Fumio Kishida, the Prime Minister of Japan, will visit Volodymyr Zelensky, the President of Ukraine, in Kyiv, simulating the meeting between Xi and Putin. Zelensky and Kishida are anticipated to talk about Japanese assistance for Ukraine's restoration. On Tuesday, Kishida paid his condolences to the victims of Russian atrocities against civilians by visiting a church in the town of Bata west of Kyiv. He expressed his fury at the cruelty and that he was outraged by the cruelty. Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, claimed that Kyiv had urged Beijing to join a Ukrainian peace plan to put an end to Russia's war in his nation. At a news conference in Kyiv with Fumio Kishida, the Prime Minister of Japan, Zelensky stated that Ukraine was still awaiting a response from Beijing. He said that he would participate in a future G7 summit from Japan via video link. According to a Ukrainian commander, Ukraine is maintaining its defense of the besieged eastern city of Bakhmut as Russian soldiers try to move toward the city's center. The commander of the Ukrainian ground forces, Alexander Syrskyi, reported fierce fighting along the eastern front line. Russian cruise missiles that were destined for use by Moscow's Black Sea Fleet, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, were destroyed by an explosion near the Crimean city of Zhunkoi. The attack looked to have been carried out by a drone, as evidenced by the explosion's immediate prior loud engine humming that was reminiscent of Iranian-made kamikaze drones that had previously attacked Ukraine. Jens Stoltenberg, the Secretary General of NATO, has cautioned China against giving Russia deadly weapons. Stoltenberg told reporters in Brussels, "We haven't seen any evidence that China is supplying Russia with lethal weapons, but we have seen some signals that this has been a request from Russia, and that this is an issue that the Chinese authorities are considering in Beijing." According to Stoltenberg, one ally less than in 2021 before Russia's invasion of Ukraine met NATO's military budget target of 2% of GDP in 2022. He pointed to NATO's yearly report, which would be released later on Tuesday, although he did not say which nations had achieved the aim. According to U.S. authorities, the U.S. is deploying a refurbished, older model of the Abrams combat tank to Ukraine in order to expedite delivery. The older M1A1 Abrams tank, which can be obtained from army supplies and will be simpler for Ukrainian forces to learn to use and maintain, will be shipped to Ukraine in place of the previous plan to send 31 of the more modern M1A2 Abrams tanks. According to the Human Rights Commissioner for Ukraine, Dmytro Lubinets, 15 children, along with their mothers and legal guardians, have been repatriated from the Russian-occupied Ukrainian districts of Kharkiv and Kherson. He continued, quoting the nation's National Information Agency, saying that 308 kids in total had been returned to Ukraine since Russia's all-out assault.